Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young. He's Josh Tech. We had so much to talk about in the Georgia Basketball Coaches Association Southeast Regional Live Period event that we had to have part two. We had to have an addendum because we went too long in part one, which is a fun thing to go through. But I think that speaks to the depth of talent that we saw over the weekend at Lake Point and Josh Tech. We're going to go into some deep cut 2025, 2026 players in this podcast, more guys off of your notepad. So I want to kind of lean on you, lean on what you saw from the weekend. And really, this is what this event's all about, is really getting more players out there that we can kind of talk about. So I'm glad that we both have some voices left over. I may have to sip on the water a little bit more as we dive into this a little bit further, but I'll kind of turn it over to you. A lot of talent to kind of go through. Let's go through some 2025 guys that you really liked and some storylines from the weekend. Let's go up to North Carolina to Charlotte to Myers Park High School. Really good program, elite program. And Sadiq White, quite frankly, in the one game that I saw of him, I don't know about you, I thought he looked like an absolute freaking stud and a guy that certainly warrants some top 25 dialogue nationally out of this class. Big, long wing, can do a lot of things. What did he do to really put a smile on your face?
I think it was just defensive upside. I think his length is just kind of smacks you in the face. You just sit there and you're like, geez, man, this guy's got like his physical tools are just pretty unbelievable. And I missed it, but our guy Theo Hahn was on hand for a 29-point outburst.
Shout out Theo.
Yeah, Theo's the man. He's an up and comer. But he was on hand for a 29-point outburst from Sadiq Wyatt, and he left really enthused about what he saw. When I saw Sadiq, it's kind of more of the same. I've seen him quite a bit. It's just he's a really quality defender, really pretty versatile player, versatile scorer, does a lot. Myers Park was with missing Sir Muhammad, and Bishop Boswell played well as well. But Sadiq White really had his moments throughout this weekend for them.
Yeah, this event actually was the first time I saw him play last year, now that I think about it, and was a guy that was like, oh, who's this young guy coming up? And I feel like he's going to be an upside guy still for a while, but we're starting to see him put more and more together as far as his big upside is concerned. A guy that I really like, and I know Justin Byerly, our North Carolina editor, absolutely loves as well. So it's good to see him. A no-brainer high major guy, a blue blood guy, a guy that I think we're going to be talking about for quite a long time. And North Carolina's on a run of elite talent right now as a state. Really good in the state of North Carolina. Sadiq White is part of leading the charge in 2025. So not surprised to hear that he had a really good weekend. From what I saw on film, was very, very good as well. Let's actually stay in North Carolina for a second since we're talking about them, and we'll move on to some Georgia teams and some Florida teams as well. But let's go over to Millbrook. Millbrook is a program traditionally is always a basketball powerhouse. They've got a guy that you really liked in Colt Langdon. What can you tell me about him?
Yeah, I was really impressed with him when I got to see him throughout the weekend in spurts. It was kind of one of those, watching Millbrook was watching, you turn around and watch half of a game, you turn around and watch another half of a game. So I caught Millbrook with that, So I eventually pieced together a full game, but it was across different time slots and stuff like that. But he was really good as a scorer, lefty scorer, scored really well from all three levels. Shot the ball really well. And he was a guy that had some buzz generating around his name. He's already gotten plenty of schools that reached out early on. But I think now, after this weekend, he's going to have plenty more reaching out because he was a name that kind of kept popping up when I would talk to college coaches. They'd be like, who'd you like? And then, we'd go back and forth like that. I'd be like, who'd you like? And then ultimately, a lot of them brought up Colt Langdon as far as the 2025 class. So I think he's a guy that's already pretty well regarded nationally. I think he's generally a consensus top 100 guard in that class. But I think he's a guy that could continue to rise up national rankings and national conversations with more weekends like the one he just had.
I watched a lot of those guys on film this season. He was really good in some pick and pop situations. Like I said, lefty can really stretch the floor. I think that's his value add to the next level of really being a threat on the perimeter, can really, really dial it in from deep. So that's good on the North Carolina. Again, a lot of film to watch still for us. I know Justin Byerly has a lot more intel on a lot of these guys, and we'll probably see a lot of these teams coming up this weekend in the state of North Carolina. But let's stay. We got a number of let's talk about some private school guys in Atlanta, particularly from the 2025 class. We'll start actually down in College Park. Deke Cooper is a guy that we've seen quite a bit at our preview camps. Really like him a lot. Zach Foster, his teammate, is a player that I think was one of our top performers, if I remember correctly, at the recent Bob Gibbons Tournament Champions. At least I know that. I think I wrote about him. I know that we liked him a lot.
We like both of them at Bob Gibbons. One Deke with Express and Zach with the Celtics.
That's right. I thought those guys did what they do, and they played really well for Woodward Academy.
Yeah.
What did you like from them, and what did you see from them?
I think both of them are really great scorers, and they both have defensive upside, but both are pretty long, pretty big for their position and all that stuff. They both played really well. It was kind of like it was like a checking in on them kind of deal, because they're both players that we've seen a lot out of, and just like, all right, yep, they're still doing their thing, right? I thought D. Cooper said he tweeted out that he picked up his first Division I offer from Tulane, and that kind of surprised me, because that just felt weird that he's picking up his first Division I offer, because he's a guy that I would have expected to have had several already at this point. I know Zach Foster has several. So I'm glad to see D. Cooper coaches are finally starting to do their due diligence on him, because he's a guy that's just been doing it for years since he was a freshman. At Woodward Academy, he's been a guy that kind of always impressed us on different stages. He might have been the best performer at our most recent elite preview last fall. And funny enough, the camp director at that was Daryl LeBerry, who is now on staff at Tulane. So maybe he had a leg up on that, right? Because I remember he liked him a lot at that elite preview camp. So it's nice to see Tulane jumping on him. And Zach Foster, like I already mentioned, already has several offers. And I have a story on Zach coming up, and I'm going to talk to Deke this coming weekend at the next GBCA live event.
Well, Deke and Zach, if you're watching this, you both have return offers to the elite preview coming up this year in the fall at Swanee Sports Academy.
I think they might be too old at this point. I think.
Oh, you're right. They are. Well, nonetheless, you have an invite to our fall camp as well. So just let it be known and on the record. Yeah, man, that's weird to think. First of all, it's really weird to think that we're talking about class of 26 and 27. Just absolutely blows my mind. I mean, we were talking offline about Brandon Bass Sr. Brandon Bass Jr. was one of the top 26 guys in the entire camp, really one of the top guards overall in the camp. We talked about him in an individual. He was a class of 2003, which was really the first class that I started with. So the thing about 26 and 27, my back hurts just thinking about that.
Yeah, so, It's dating you.
It's definitely dating me. Let's talk about Pace Academy. Chandler Bing, I think, had a really good weekend. What did you see from him?
He's a guy that I think a lot of us who kind of roam Georgia basketball gyms year round really, really like as a motor, kind of high effort, high energy kind of guy around the basket. But I think now his game is expanding a little bit, and he's kind of doing more on the wing as well. I think as that part of his game really starts to refine and starts to expand, I think he's going to start to pop more as a prospect, because he already plays super hard. He already has a lot of the intangibles that you look for. He picked up a Georgia State offer after having a good weekend with Pace Academy. And that Pace Academy team has a lot of 2025s that are good. Eric Chatfield is another name that we really like on that team. And I think Chandler Bing's just now starting to come into his own as kind of like a well-regarded prospect from the college level, and it kind of materialized with that Georgia State offer.
What about Ross Geller and Joey Tribbiani? How'd they play?
They played tremendously. I had a feeling that was coming. I get that often. So sorry, Chandler.
I know it's low-hanging fruit, but any chance you can refer to Ross Geller, Joey Tribbiani, and Chandler, you got to do it. So
yeah, shout out to the paleontologists out there.
It's probably played out, so I apologize. I think, and you said it best, Shane Bynum. I mean, from the state of Georgia? Was he the guy that really elevated his profile the most for you this weekend?
You could say that. I think there are a lot of 24 contenders that might have done that.
Sorry, I meant out of 25. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I could say he's in the conversation. We'll put it like that, because he last year at this event he picked up some offers. Like this is kind of a building upon what he did last year. Last year, I believe he picked up like Georgia State and something like, a couple schools like that of that level. But now he picked up he went up a level and picked up Georgia Tech, and he also picked up Central Florida. So Shane Bynum, he elevated his perception, I guess, from a potential national perspective. He does a lot. He has a lot of intriguing tools about him, right? Size, length, and the way he shoots the ball at that size, like 6'8", 6'9" or so. Really shoots the ball well from three. So I think that's his upside. A lot of schools are going to be interested by that, and it looked like a couple were interested from this weekend. I believe he's with Kip Atlanta now.
Yeah. Central Florida offer makes a ton of sense given the success they had with Taylor Hendricks.
Yeah.
I think Shane Grimes that same kind of guy. I remember watching Shane. He must have been a freshman. Yeah, he was a freshman. I came back for regional. It was regional tournament time, and I saw him at Columbia. Yeah, that's right, when he was with Washington, and makes a ton of sense. Taylor Hendricks was the same kind of guy at that same age, where he was really big, really young, kind of a baby deer when he ran the floor, but man, he could really hit shots, block a lot of shots, run the floor really, really well. Again, another guy that when he's 20, 21 years old, you get pretty excited thinking about what he can become down the road. And I certainly see where a lot of coaches would be intrigued by that. Not surprising that Central Florida was one of those guys as well. Paideia is a program that academically one of the best schools in the city of Atlanta. It's down off the Ponce de Leon, really cool part of town. They kind of have these ebbs and flows of players that have come through there in their program. Some years they have a ton of guys, some years not so much. And this year, or in this 25 class rather, I feel like they've got, or 26. So I'm jumping ahead of myself.
Yeah, they got young guns. They got young guns.
Well, okay, since I kind of spoiled it, let's go ahead and just talk about them for a second. I was staying on the Georgia or the Atlanta private schools, and that's where my head was at. I got ahead of myself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the young over at Paideia have a bright future. I got to watch them. I watched them a little bit on Saturday, kind of just like I said, like kind of turning around, watching a little bit, turning around and watching another game. But I sat down for an entire one of their games on Sunday, and Frank Jackson and CJ Harper are two guys to know on that team. They performed really well. Those are their two 2026 stars in the backcourt. CJ Harper played so well that he walked away with a Georgia Tech offer. Tech had two assistants on hand for the game that I watched. They played Central Phoenix from Alabama, so there was a lot of coaches on hand for that because Central Phoenix has a couple guys as well. So Frank Jackson and CJ Harper, two names from Georgia's 2026 class to kind of keep an eye on. They're on the rise, and that's evidenced by CJ Harper's Georgia Tech offer.
I love it. Sorry for getting ahead of you there. Let's go five real quick back to Georgia. Let's go up to Etowah, a program that we know really well. They had a couple guys that impressed you as well.
Yeah, Sunday was another time that I watched these guys. Etowah was the first game I watched on Sunday. Aiden Weaver is a guy that's made plenty of waves around Georgia basketball circles for the last couple of years, and now that the Brandon Rexsteiner, Mason Eder class has graduated, it looks like he is going to be the guy at Etowah, and he performed really, really well all weekend. When I saw him on Sunday, he hit a bunch of shots. He scored at the rim. He's very athletic wing. Very long wing. He can kind of save broken plays with his athleticism, with his length. He's a really high-level defender. When I saw him, he showed off his scoring, and that's what kind of shined the most. He was able to hit shots, finish shots at the rim, create stuff off the dribble. He did a lot of good stuff. And then a guy that was new to my radar, at least, DC Kelly Godinez, 2025 guard. He really shot the ball well. Etowah opened up the game with a set to get him a shot. He hit that. He hit three more after that in the first half. And then in the second half, he continued that with a couple more threes. So he's a guy to keep an eye on as a shooter, pretty good size at 6'4", 6'3", 6'4" at the guard spot. So keep an eye on DC Kelly Godinez with Etowah, that he could have a really big season with them. I
love it. I think any good event has a moment where everyone rushes the scorer's table going, who's this guy? Who is this guy? Who's number so-and-so? Do you know who this is? We had that again with Miami Country Day. Over the course of the weekend, where even the Googles didn't really yield you a lot. Tell me about.
We're still trying to figure out who this guy is in a way.
Tell me about your mystery man from the weekend.
Yeah, this was another Sunday performer that kind of caught everyone by surprise. I'll tell you what, I mean me, a couple other people like me, media members, evaluators, whatever, and college coaches lined up to see Sandy Creek because they got a lot of great prospects. They performed pretty well throughout the weekend. But the guy that really stole the show, I have to look this up because I try to want to butcher it as little as possible. Chiam Galvin, 6'6", 6'5", long guard, wing-ish kind of multi-positional kind of guy. Really caught attention early because he opened the game with a blocked shot, came down, hit a couple of threes, and then he continued to play incredibly hard throughout the game. Like, good Lord, that guy plays hard. Nobody that I've talked to has any kind of idea about him. It didn't look like he had social media presence. I don't know if he was on this team last year because I talked to our guy, Mike Custines down in Florida. He said he didn't know who he was, and he saw Miami Country Day a few times. A lot of people were asking about him, college coaches, other just kind of people affiliated with just basketball from the area were like, yo, who's that guy? Who's this guy? Who's that guy? And you're like, man, we're all just still trying to figure out. So people at Miami Country Day, if you've got any information, please drop it below because people want to know who this guy is because he put on an electric show. I think he had like 25 points or so in that game. Was really good defensively, really good on the glass. Like he just plays hard, man. Like that's a skill, and he has that skill.
I love it. I love it. I love any event that requires you to do the Googles and go, who is this guy? And that doesn't yield anything. The last
he might have been the who is this guy of the weekend.
Last time that happened, Jonathan Isaac was that guy from South Florida. South Florida is a hard place to like. Miami in particular, Fort Lauderdale, that whole area, like it's hard to be like a good sleeper down there just because there's a lot of eyeballs and a lot of good athletes. So to really come out of that area and be a who is that guy, that's saying something pretty good. I already jumped ahead to 26. We talked about the guys from Paideia, Frank Jackson, C.J. Harper. Florida as a whole, I think, is really good in 26, and it's hard to start any conversation about really good players without talking about the two Alexes, Alex Costanza and Alex Lloyd. I think Alex Costanza is a guy that's a 5-star guy. I think Alex Lloyd's another guy that can contend for that as well. What did you see from the Alexes this weekend in Florida?
I thought that Westminster Academy team, they have 25s and 26s just coming out their ears because DJ Wembley was also very good. 25 class, Wembley and Lloyd were very good. Wembley, bigger kind of guard, plays physically, plays hard, slasher, really attacks the glass for the position well. Lloyd, just kind of an electric scorer, really good shooter, really good creator, really good, guard, just in general. Like honestly, to put it bluntly. And then Alex Constanza, 2026 wing, I guess. He really impressed just by his physical maturation, I guess. He last time I saw him, he's kind of skinny, kind of gangly, kind of that look of like this guy's going to be a good player down the line. Now he's filled out a lot more. He looks kind of like a grown man now, and he really caught some attention this weekend, just doing a lot of different things on the floor. He was one of those guys where people were like, yeah, like, where do you think that guy's going to land? Like, what kind of level do you think he is going to be? Like this, that, and the other. He was the guy that he's going to be a 5-star kid, but he was the guy that some low majors were asking about. And I was like, he's a 26. And they were like, oh, never mind. They were asking about him as like a 24. And then I was like, he's a 26. And they were like, yeah, never mind. Out of our league. They just kind of looked that up.
His ascension reminds me a lot of Josh Minott coming up out of Florida. Played in the NBA or is in the NBA. That same thing where you saw him and you're like, he's going to be pretty good. Then you look at his body of work and like, holy crap, he's really good. I still wish he would have went somewhere other than Memphis. I think he would have had a chance to develop.
I think Alex is going to have a better.
I agree. I brought Josh up because of the quick ascension.
Sure. Yeah. I get it.
I think Alex is the same kind of way. Where I'm with you. I think he's way more of a no-brainer 5-star guy out of that class. We talked about Brandon Bass, another guy out of the 26th class from Windermere Prep, a guy that I really liked. Thought was one of the best players, best prospects that I saw. But also on that team, man, they got a 6'10" guy in the middle that's pretty good. Tell me a little bit more about. And I don't want to say his name wrong. Is it Siam Huan?
I think it might be Sinan Wan, something like that. I believe he is of Chinese descent. And he's awesome, man. Like when you see an international 6'10", 6'11", 7-footer, somewhere in that 7-foot range, right? That 7-foot ballpark. They're kind of, let's just be frank, they're kind of goofy. He wasn't very goofy at all. Like he had very sure movements of himself down there in the paint. He was pretty physical for what he, for how young he is and his size. Usually those guys are pretty gangly, but he was pretty physically well put together, had some athletic moments. He's kind of just played a more advanced game than you normally see from guys like that. He was really good. I thought he had really good moments for them consistently throughout the weekend. And he's a guy that can just keep developing and elevating his profile. In that 2026 class, I think he's going to be one of the more intriguing big men.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Did you have anybody from the 27 class that jumped out to you? And that might be
okay. I do actually. A guard from Wheeler that it's kind of a cheat because he's been a guy that I've been kind of in on for a little bit. But Kevin Savage, guard from Wheeler, he's got to grow a little bit. Obviously, he's 2027, so that's coming down the line. But he's super skilled with the ball. He can really shoot it. He can really get to his spots. He can really distribute. He plays with he plays with Game Elite on the 2026 team. So he's with Mustafa Diop and Devin Hutcherson on that Game Elite team. So that's why I kind of had a leg up on him, because I like to watch that team just to kind of get eyes on Diop and Hutcherson as younger the 2026 class. Hey, both those guys were good for their respective schools. Holy Innocents with Hutcherson, and the Walker School with Diop throughout the weekend as well. But 2027, Kevin Savage is the name to look at the point guard spot. And I could throw another one at you. It wasn't from this weekend, but it was from a couple days prior at the Relentless Hoop Summer League at Woodstock Academy. A kid, oh man, I'm gonna forget his last name. I put myself in a bad situation. But his first name's Taj. He's at Woodstock Academy, 2027 kid. He's gonna end up being pretty good. Right now, he plays super hard. He's got super long arms. He's gonna be a big. He's gonna be a forward. It looks like. He looks like a guy that's gonna keep growing, but he's already pretty well physically put together. If he gets up to 6'8" or so, right now I'd say he's at 6'6". But if he gets to 6'8", 6'9" or so, he's gonna be a pretty dominant big man. He plays super hard. Looks to dunk everything at the rim.
I love it. I love it. I'm glad we did the addendum. With a lot of guys to talk about. 20 minutes worth so far. So,
and guess what? There's probably plenty more that I just didn't see, or I'm forgetting about. But there's a lot of basketball.
Well, the more video that we record keeps us away from the video that we need to watch, and so that's kind of where we're at right now here on Monday, as we're trying to get out as much information as we can from what we saw, and again, trying to get in that film. Watch a lot of stuff here on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe even into Thursday as well before we hit the road, and watch some more stuff beginning on Friday for these team camps. So a lot of good stuff coming up on hoopscene.com. Make sure you follow us there. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Hoopscene, and of course on Instagram at Hoopscene, at _Josh Tech TEC, and at Justin D Young on Twitter. We're gonna have a lot of stuff coming your way. Of course, Garrett Tucker has a lot of stuff. Justin Byerly has a lot of stuff, so make sure you look them up and follow them on Twitter as well to make sure that you get yourself the cheat sheet. I mean, I feel like that's all we're ever doing is giving you guys all the answers to the test every single time we're watching some stuff, and these are players that we feel really strongly about. So appreciate you watching. Leave a comment below. Make sure you like and subscribe. Do all the things that people ask you to do. We're asking
Miami Country Day. Watch this and give us information, please. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Help Josh out. Let him know. Let him know. Until then, we see you next time right here on the Fast Break. For Josh Tech, I'm Justin Young. Appreciate you watching.